I'm not sure I have anything interesting either, but I have a little bit of a question if no one else has one.
You have a little bit of a question, huh?
Well, I say that because I think it's something that you've addressed before and that you talked about briefly when you were addressing Emily's question, but I just wonder if you would talk a little bit more about how that acceptance of who you are comes about, especially after so many years, with these ideas where there's such a great deal of conflict inside. Um, I guess, what are the stages, if there are any, or is it just something that suddenly happens and no one knows when and no one knows why, and it just remains a mystery how that acceptance comes about?
Yeah, I don't know how one comes to accept. I mean, first of all, the word acceptance is interesting because uh, it comes from a place of its opposite. In other words, there is something about yourself, there is something about your life, there is something about the things or events or experiences that have happened to you that have been unpleasant, and they've had some major hands, a major role in directing the way you think, the way you feel, and the way you act. It may have been something that took place, at the age of 5 or 6 or 10 or 20. And their impact was so intense and so profound that, it just lives inside you and haunts you the moment you wake up and is next to you until you go to bed. Sometimes you even have nightmares. And I suppose you read books in hopes to understand and accept, the reality of who and what you are. There is no denying it. A, B, C, D happened to you when you were 10. You go to therapy, you watch movies, you read books, you talk to people, various people to kind of, just make peace. And you accept because, you don't have any power to push the delete button and get it out of your memory. It doesn't work that way. You know, um, some people who have cancer, they just fight and fight and fight and fight and fight and fight. You read them the New Testament, you read them the Quran, you tell them about the Tibetan Book of the Dead, in a way that they can relate to and understand. And they accept, maybe they don't accept, but maybe it just sinks in for a second or two, and you feel this calmness about them. But, they forget they love life, they don't want to die, they have no idea what will happen to them when they die. They're fearful of the people they're going to leave behind, what's going to happen to them, who's going to take care of them. There's also this idea that if I die, well, I'm not going to experience anything. I won't be around anymore. So some people just accept and they make peace with their mistakes, with their sins. They make peace with God. They make peace with their family, and they die. And some people just never get there. It's only the last couple of breaths where, peace overcomes them and they kind of just accept and then they die. Um, if you're talking about acceptance, you're talking about trauma, you're talking about something that happened to you that was profoundly unpleasant. Um, and somehow you're saying, I want to be okay with this. And I suppose being okay with it is like saying, I want this grass grow faster, and the only way it's going to grow is by my pulling it. And what we have from the wisdom of the New Testament is that no one can be forced to grow. You can't, pull the grass. You can't make it grow by pulling it. And pulling the grass is like pulling something out of you that says, I accept. I don't really think it works that way. I think it's a struggle because you're dealing with things you don't understand. You're dealing with emotions you don't really understand. You're dealing with the play of emotions and the intellect and their impact on the way you act and you behave and you express. And out of that comes a good amount of regret and shame for what you have said, how you have behaved, how you have acted. And then not only do you have to deal about the event that took place, but you also now have to deal with the fact that there is so much confusion and so much intense emotion, such as anger in regards to it, that you're like a puppet. One day you wake up and you're angry. One day you wake up, you're calm. And you get tired of one day being good, one day being bad, one day being dependable, one day being a flake. And you want to make all this stuff go away because you are really, all of us are after kind of permanence and Sabbath and security. You don't want to be up and down all the time. And, and your parents eventually give up and they look at you and say, Baba, it just happened. Accept the fact that ABCD happened to you. Accept the fact that you divorced. Accept the fact that your mom died. Accept the fact that you're a bum. But, all these comments coming from the external world is like, again, wanting the grass grow by pulling it. I'm not really quite sure, Cassie, at what stage anybody comes to understand and ultimately accept who and what they are and be comfortable with it. Because that's the thing, the moment you accept, conflict ends, that there are no opposites anymore. There is no, the experience was good or bad, and I'm feeling good and I'm feeling bad. I want it to be something different. Why is this happening to me? So these conflicting emotions, are going to exist for a long time, and no one knows when they're going to disappear, unfortunately. And there are no tricks. You can't. It's good if you can read books and reflect and go for walks and think about, the stuff that live inside you. But I think what usually happens is first you try to kind of deny or repress or look the other way or forget some of the things that you're feeling or some of the things that have happened to you that have kind of ruined or broken your psychology. Trust factor, faith factor, all those things. Then all of a sudden they kind of lash out, and for the first time you realize that despite all of your clever and cunning tricks, you can't really get rid of the stuff that lives inside you. And now they're just out looking at you all the time. The things that you try to kind of hide from and push them away so you don't see them or they don't see you. And eventually you just come face to face with them and you can't get rid of them anymore. And so they make you angry. They really, really do. They make you angry because you have no power over them. They make you feel bad about yourself. It's such a huge negative judgment that it's just hovering around you all the time. And then you begin to try to understand them, but you can't. And you try, and you try. And, as you grow more mature, as you grow more into understanding, one day you wake up and you're okay. It's like an alcoholic who denies that he's an alcoholic. And I don't really know at what stage someone who is addicted to consuming alcohol excessively comes to face the fact that he is an alcoholic. But the moment he does accept the fact that he's an alcoholic, his nightmare begins. He begins to see what alcohol has done to him, what it has done to his family. And you know how difficult it is for a wife or a husband to trust an alcoholic companion? You know how difficult it is for children to trust an alcoholic father? You know how difficult it is for parents of an alcoholic to trust him or her? And so it's going to take a long time. And, and, you know, people who are addicted to alcohol, they have good days where they go to their companions, apologize, and they're honest and they're sincere. And then they go back and they start drinking again. And, this back and forth goes on again and again and again for many, until they understand their past, they understand the reason as to why their past was the way that it was. They understand that the only way that they could deal with the past is by drinking, but now instead of drinking, they kind of just observe the stuff that's happening to them. And that observation gets them drunk. And they go home and they write and they think and they reflect and they read. And then 5 years later, they're like running an AA center. And, the nice thing about being the guide at an AA center is you use your embarrassing past as your foundation of wisdom and understanding and acceptance. It's really a point of inspiration for yourself and hopefully other people who are hearing your stories. Sometimes you sit and watch TV and all these advertisements, come up where they say, we can get rid of all the garbage that lives inside you in just 10 days. It's a workshop, it's very intense, and that's how they catch you, bait you. It's very intense. We give you, breakfast, lunch, and dinner in a tiny little tent where you could kind of just lay there and there is shower. But we work rigorously on your psyche every day for about 15, 16 hours. If you're interested, give us a call. And you call them and say, yeah, we still have a couple more spaces. And you say, okay, I want to come down. He says, okay, I'm ready to take down your credit card information. How much is it? Like $25,000. And the truth is, no one knows. No one knows when you begin your initiation into acceptance. It's unclear, it's unknown, it's a mystery, as you said, Cassie. Do not trust anybody who give you dates and give you promises and give you guarantees. There are no guarantees about any of this stuff, and which makes things even a bit more difficult and complicated. There are these lines that Rumi has. من چرا دل به تو دادم که دلم می شکنی یا چه کردم که نظر باز به من می نکنی. من چرا دل به تو دادم که دلم می شکنی. Why did I give you my heart or my soul where the only thing you do with my heart and soul is you break them, you disappoint, you because you don't give me what I want. یا چه کردم که نظر باز به من می نکنی. Or what have I done that you don't even gaze upon me with compassion, with kindness, to heal me of the pain that you have created inside me. Acceptance is difficult, yes. It requires so much honesty, it requires so much courage. And you need to kind of cultivate the capacity. You know, it's really a line I enjoy by Betty Davis, which is, old age is not for sissies. That there has to come a point where you accept the fact that you are like turning 60 or 70, that you are no longer attractive, you're no longer as able as you used to be. And these are hard facts for you to accept because mentally you see yourself as forever young, but realistically, practically, you're limping as you walk. You're beginning to become forgetful. Nobody in their right mind would ever accept these things. They have to go through a long journey and battle this out. And hopefully they will come to a place where they say, okay, I'm going to accept where I am.